Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training where mostly we're trying to keep our head above water. Yesterday was a holiday, so a lot of you noticed that we were not here. Last week was very exciting. Today we got Claus Lavendt coming to us live. Where are you at, actually? Where's your physical location? Where are you, Claus?
I'm located in Denmark, in Europe.
Wow. So that's the state of the internet these days, is that we have reliable real-time connections all the way around the other side of the planet, which is very exciting. So with Claus Lavendt, you are Manix, right? Data Manix?
Data Minix, yeah.
Manix. Okay. So what do you do? What is your, what do you guys do?
Well, we build FileMaker solutions mainly, and connected. Everything is centered around FileMaker, but also we provide services around that. Yeah, I've been doing that for
A bunch of years, right? Long
bunch
time.
of years now, yeah. And our customers are everything from small businesses to large international corporations. And everything in between. So that's
Yeah. So,
what we do. Yeah.
so here's your unsolicited testimonial from Richard. So we only have really generally sharp people on the live stream. Klaus is one of the sharper people I know. He's built a number of tools that help the community. A lot of them are for free. Some of them you can pay for. But he's made the what was it? The admin tool, the missing admin tool for
The missing
FileMakers.
admin tool.
Yeah, which is really a great contribution to the FileMaker community to help us manage the FileMaker server easier than it would be otherwise. So I just want to say, everyone, if you have any questions, you need a FileMaker developer, especially if you want to meet someone in Europe that kicks ass, like Christian Schmidt, another smart guy. But Christian doesn't build databases for you. Christian Schmidt makes plugins, but the Klaus will help you with a database and get you all squared away. So what are we doing today? What is today?
Yeah, well, the topic today is how you can protect your FileMaker server from attacks. And this is looking not at the server box itself with firewalls and using the security features of FileMaker Server, but we are taking a look of the outside. How can we protect our server from threats that is going on the network, mainly? So that's what today's topic is about, and I don't believe that anyone has done this before, or I did speak with a couple of people, pretty smart people like Clay and Wim about it, and they hadn't thought about this approach. So
Okay,
it's kind
cool.
of a worldwide premiere in the FileMaker world.
Nice, nice,
Um,
nice, nice. Excellent.
and you saw it on Richard Carlson's
There
live.
we go. There we go. There
Yeah.
we go. Makes me feel
And
better.
and may I thank you, Richard. Let me take a moment to thank you for doing all these live streams that you are doing for free for the community. It's really, really awesome that you want to do this. I really think that people get a lot from it. If they are not here live, then the recordings are hugely popular.
Yep.
So thank you for that great contribution, Richard, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, absolutely. And I'll just leave it with one thing and then we'll throw it to you. Well, two things. One, thank you to Margaret, who helps all this work out very, very well. And when I'm running around doing more than one thing at a time. And the other thing is, I went to some of the top consultants before we started doing this live stream. We were doing them once a week, and I went to the top consultancy. Said, "Hey, we want to do this every day. You guys want to be part of that?" And it scared them because
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. And so we kind of still roll it on ourselves, but we have everyone, the top people in the community, Klaus included, jump on and help out, do their little bit, which is what we need. So it's awesome. So with that being said, you want to share your screen and dive us
Sure.
in?
No, actually, I have prepared a keynote slideshow, so I'm gonna walk through this, and then, of course, questions is allowed, but some of the questions will probably be answered during the presentation, right? So, what I'm gonna talk about is network attacks. in particular DDoS attacks and network layer attacks, which is in the same category, you could say.
I have a question. Stop. So do you want us to ask questions or do you not want us to ask questions?
Yeah, well, yeah, you can ask questions, of course.
Okay,
So
well,
it's
let me just, okay, I'm going to help Margaret out. Okay, Margaret is a great intermediate developer. She's our canary in the coal mine. So if she rolls over dead in the video, you know she doesn't understand anything you just said. So, Margaret, what is DDoS? And it doesn't sound for desperate donuts with awesome sauce.
Oh man, you're asking what it stands for off the top of my head.
What does it even mean? What does it mean?
It overloads a server, right? Like too many connections at once.
I am
causes it to
impressed,
crash.
Margaret. Most intermediate developers wouldn't know that. All right, good job.
And there's a reason I'm using the fancy wording right now, because I'm gonna explain what it is later.
Okay,
So
this is
I'm
the
gonna
part where you tell me to shut up and I quit asking questions. Okay, got it, Roger. So it's not the desperate donuts with awesome sauce. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine for now, and then later we can talk about what it really means in this world, right? So another thing I'm going to talk about is bots, including AI bots, and what it is. That is something I'm going to explain about, and then I'm going to present a solution to this. And just a spoiler alert. This is not complicated. This is easy, and Margaret will be able to follow the steps and do it. Sorry, Margaret, not to say that you're not capable of anything, but
I know my own skill level, so if I can do it, then that's pretty easy.
it is fairly simple and easy, and then of course you can dig deeper and do more advanced stuff if you want to, or explore later on. So that is the thing. So bad guys are everywhere, right? These guys, they are all over the place. So let me just say what this is not about. It's not about standard security features like firewalls on your machine and on your internet connection and how you should configure that. Nor is it about securing FileMaker Server using the features of FileMaker Server. And it's not about securing your FileMaker solution with privileges sets and so on. We have done sessions about that. I have done some at Claris Engage and Engage You and so on. And there are plenty of videos out there. And that's something you should dig into as well, of course. But we are taking a step outside of the perimeter of this, right? So the thing we are gonna do is that we're gonna dig into this. And now we are going to what is this DDoS attack? It stands for a distributed denial of service attack. And basically what it means is that there's a massive amount of requests that is being sent to your server, and that brings it to its knees in order to try to respond to all these requests, which means that there is no room for legitimate traffic. So when you need to go to your server. And there is a wide range of different varieties of these DDoS attacks. There's also some called DOS attacks, which is direct denial of service attacks, where it's more like fewer machines and so on. But these DDoS attacks pretty much works like you install some malware on a bunch of computers out on the internet, like millions of computers on the internet, or Internet of Things devices like your fridge or wherever you have these internet connected devices. And then you can send commands to these bots, and then they are gonna flood your traffic. And it's not difficult to do a DDoS attack, nor is it expensive. So you can get the codes to infect and create a big botnet, and it's fairly easy and pretty cheap. Or you can just, and this is the scary thing about this, you can just order an attack like you order a pizza, and you can get it for as low as $5. Actually, I just saw someone offering it for $3 for an attack, and that's why we actually need to care about this, because for when it is so easy to order an attack and it's so cheap, it means that you don't even have to be an interesting target. You don't need to run a government or a financial institution or someone who has weapon secrets or whatever highly sensitive business you could be in. This can hit everyone, right? So that's why we actually need to care, because what do we do if we get attacked by or hit by this? And it could be on purpose, but it could actually as well be by accident, because everyone can order this pretty cheap. It's still illegal, I think, pretty much in all over the world, but it is so cheap. And actually, I saw a website where someone is advertising for this service, and they provide 24/7 support. It's just like, yeah, it's insane.
24/7 DDoS support.
24/7 support for doing attacks on services, right? So this is why we need to care about this. Bear in mind that maybe you say, yeah, well, I'm just gonna kill the internet connection and then wait for it to be over with. But the downtime that you're experiencing is for most businesses crucial with their services, right? So there's another thing that another reason for this. Well, you could say this is a side benefit of the solution for this, and that is we can also be protected by bots. And we know about search bots, which is like Googlebot that crawls the internet and index the content of your website, right? And that is something we normally would like to have, and if we don't, we can put a text file on the web folder and then tell the bot to, hey, don't look at me, right? But there are other types of bots that are looking specific for files that has known security issues, like WordPress files or some of the other framework files, or email.php, which is like a file that has been used, or variations of that, and then they are using that to compromise your server and so on. And that's kind of a bot we don't want. Actually, we want to have our things in order, and it's not really an issue with FileMaker servers normally, unless you put something in the web folder of FileMaker server. But now with all this AI stuff coming, there are actually a ton of AI bots, and they are crawling the internet and looking for content. And actually, they sucks up the entire content of your site. And then they leave you with the bill to pay for the traffic. It's like, I'm gonna steal your content, and then let's and give you an extra bill for that, which is kind of, yeah, I think it's kind of offensive, right? How much can an AI bot steal from your FileMaker solution? Well, that depends on how closed down your solution is and so on. But actually, I read about a local guy who had a simple website with a fair amount of content on, but he was actually the traffic went through the roof, and he got an extra bill of like $2,000 for traffic. And that was just like, hey, what's going on? And then he discovered that it was AI bots that had stolen all his content without paying for his content that he has created, and then left him with a big bill for the traffic. So we get a site side benefit from using the solution I'm gonna present. And what is the solution? Well, it's a way to mitigate the risk and get protection from attacks by using a proxy service, right? And I'm going to talk about what this proxy service is. I'm going to show a way to use Cloudflare, which is a system, a big company, and I'm in no way associated with Cloudflare. I'm not going to receive any commission or anything. There are other services out there. Maybe AWS has some of this. I don't think they have what Cloudflare is actually providing here. So I'm going to show Cloudflare, and then, of course, it's up to you to determine whether you want to look into that or maybe choose something else. So the solution is that it means that we are going to use a fairly recent feature on the FileMaker platform combined with using Cloudflare proxy, and then we can mitigate the risk and protect from network attacks like the DDoS attacks and other types of network attacks. And this is something that is happening outside of our server center, no matter if you're hosting internally or with a cloud provider like AWS and so on. This is actually an extra protection layer that we could put outside our perimeter. So,
sorry, I'm muted. I'm agreeing with you. I'm bobbing my head up and down. So
okay, yeah. So how does it work and what is required? Well, there's one little feature that we need to enable, which is called HTTPS tunneling in the FileMaker server. And then we need to configure our FileMaker Pro and Go clients to use the HTTPS tunneling. Then you need to create a free Cloudflare account. Oh, by the way, this is actually free, what I'm showing. There's no price tag. There's no monetary price tag, I would say, to this, right?
Well, that's good to know, since $3 can shut me down. And I was wondering if it was going to take $300 to fight off a $3 attack. So
yeah, no, it's not. No, it doesn't. You actually get a lot for free here when it comes down to actual money, dollar. You need to buy a domain at Cloudflare or move the DNS service for an existing domain. But that's, we need to have a domain already for our server. The good news is that you don't need to, if you have your corporate domain, you don't need to move that to Cloudflare. You can if you want to, but you can actually also just buy a domain, because it is rare that we actually need to display the domain name of the FileMaker server anywhere. We can have opener files. We can configure both Pro and Go to open the solution file on the FileMaker server. So we don't have to show the domain name even. And you can buy cheap domains. They are competitive pricing, what they offer at Cloudflare. And then you need to configure Cloudflare, which is actually fairly simple, and I'm going to show you what you need to do. And then, of course, you should consider reading on all the other extra features that Cloudflare offers that might be of value to you, right? So how does it work? Well, as you can see, we have the client on the right side, like a computer. This is a very old style computer. I didn't have a better image. And it's connecting to via port 443, which is the HTTPS port. Then it's connecting via Cloudflare to your server on the left side, and it's using port 443. This also means that we are taking away traffic from port 5003. So now we actually only need to have port 443 open, which means that we can, well, it's not maybe you want to have other ports open as well, a few others, but you don't need, you can shut down one of the ports that we normally need to have open in the firewall, which means that we are eliminating another attack vector to our server. And then everything is very well monitored on the port 443, the traffic there, and that's what you're getting out of this, right? So what happens is that the traffic flows through Cloudflare's network. It means that your IP address of your FileMaker server is never exposed. So if you don't have the IP address for your server, if it's not exposed, then for an attacker to try to attack your computer directly using other means than a network attack, it will be so much harder because you are hitting an IP address that sits inside Cloudflare's network, so you're not hitting the server's IP address directly. So that's what it means with this proxy. Proxy means that something that stands in between, or a stand-in, or yeah, basically in between.
So the bad guys are going to attack Cloudflare somehow.
That's actually what happens. Is that your domain name is when you look it up with a lookup tool, what is the IP address behind this domain name? And then it will display an IP address that is inside Cloudflare's network and not your FileMaker server's IP address. So it means that for the traffic and the network attacks, that is DDoS or other types of network attacks, they are going to hit the Cloudflare network. But if an attacker wants to attack your server directly, for example, in order to try to break in and do some ransomware attacks on your physical server, it gets much more complicated because the IP address is not exposed. So they need to go through Cloudflare's network. And Cloudflare has a ton of protection against DDoS attacks. They and also bots. And then you're in a position where you can, you can always buy more protection and help in case of an attack. These guys are super sharp on network and network security. And that brings me to why should you use Cloudflare? Again, disclaimer, this is not an ad for Cloudflare, but I'm just giving you some reasons why I chose to use Cloudflare.
Well, it's an ad for it, but it's free service, right? So
yeah.
So and you're not you're not making any money on it. Just to be clear about that with people. Yeah. So
yeah. So they own the IP address 1.1.1.1, right? So who can own the IP address 1.1.1.1 if they are not something in the internet business, right? And Cloudflare has server centers in 330 cities in 125 countries, which is more than AWS, for example. So they are huge, and they have one of the largest networks in the world, if not the largest one. They have a 388 terabits per second network. If you have
I don't even know what that is. I
can't comprehend the amount of information that would be passing that fast.
It is if you have a wild connection on your local area network, you have a 1 gigabit, or maybe you have a 10 gigabit. Crazy. Yeah. That's fiber optics, right?
Right.
Your internet connection, maybe if it's crazy, it could be 1 gigabit, right? Mm-hmm. And here we are talking about terabits, which is like,
that's really big. It's hard to imagine that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it is an order of magnitude greater than the largest DDoS attacks recorded, meaning that they have the network to to contain pretty much any type of DDoS attack. And the free account offers you a lot of protection automatically, even. So let's get started. What do we need to do? Well, of course, you need to have installed your FileMaker server. Then you need to enable the HTTPS tunneling, create a free Cloudflare account, which is basically your name, email address, and a password. Then you need to buy or transfer the DNS setup for a domain on Cloudflare, configure the DNS record with proxy. Then we need to enable WebSockets in Cloudflare, and that's the key to how can FileMaker Server works on the HTTPS protocol, and that's because it's using something called WebSockets, and it's using something that is called long pulling WebSockets, and that means that it can keeps the connection open because FileMaker is a client-server technology, which normally before only has been working on its own separate pipe in order to do that. But Clay and some other engineers has found a way to move that into the HTTPS pipe and use the WebSockets for that. And we need to enable WebSocket support in Cloudflare. And then finally, we need to configure FileMaker Pro and Go to use HTTPS tunneling. And that's because by default, when you install the clients, they are set up to work on the default 5003 port. So you need to check that in the preferences. And then connect to your server. And then you can consider enabling other Cloudflare features. So this is on the FileMaker server. There's a little switch under configuration and client where you enable this. Then you need to restart the server. Then you go on Cloudflare, create your account, and either register a domain by purchasing it or buy it, or you can move it to there. And this is the DNS setup. So the server we are gonna see today is called prox. And then my domain name. I'm not going to show the actual IP addresses, but they are there under the black lines. And then you can see there is someone in the orange clouds, which is proxied, meaning that they are going through this proxy, this Cloudflare proxy. For this domain, I actually have a couple of other subdomains that is not going through DNS. Actually, the no prox is a test to see what's the difference between proxied and no proxied, where I've turned it off, right? And then under network for this, there's a little switch there saying WebSockets, allow WebSockets connection. Sure, turn it on. All right. And now we got to the clients. So settings, HTTPS tunneling there in the FileMaker Pro on the left side, on FileMaker Go on the right side. And yes, you need to restart the application. But that's it. And now you're better protected.
So the question, so it's totally free, other than a little bit of work you have to do. There's no money involved. Although if you find something that Cloudflare does for you and you like that, then obviously support the vendor, right? Because they need to make money. But yeah, Cloudflare is a big company. I actually was under the impression they were part of AWS. There's a lot of cloud word services, cloud this, cloud that, cloud. Yeah, so they're not Amazon, eh? Okay.
It's a separate company, and they are focused on providing like DNS and networking security, DNS service, which is, and then again, it's free, and whatever is proxied is also going to give you some traffic stats. For that, you can get a web application firewall. You can put up an API shield, meaning that what happens if someone is trying to exploit our API, like data API or OData, then it's possible to set up some rules about that. And even the free account allows you to do some of it. If you want to do something more advanced, then you need to pay for it, which sounds fair enough. And the reason that we get all this for free, right? That is actually well, I'm gonna go back to that. Like they have DDoS protection, and I don't have to do anything because it's just enabled by default. If you want to protect yourself from bots, you can go in under the bots and then say block AI bot. Yes, please, because I don't want that. I hate when someone steals and leave you with an extra bill, even after that. But there's a few things here that you can enable. And then if you want to upgrade your plan, then you can do some more advanced stuff, right? And they actually have an S3 thing as well that is called something else. Of course, they need to have different names. So one thing that is actually great that we have discovered when I'm moving stuff here, a lot of domains and customers and so on, and that is we have our FileMaker servers and do a lot of stuff there, but most of our customers also have some websites that is providing different things. It could be a web shop, it could be some kind of portal, different specific things. And we are now using the proxy as well. What I've seen is that when you have the proxy, they also have a cache service. And the caching means that whenever someone is getting content from your website, Cloudflare's caching service is caching the content. So the next time someone is asking for this, they are getting the cache. And what I've seen is that we have saved, like, I think it was 1 terabyte of data traffic to the actual server, meaning that the traffic bill is less. That's just one side of it, but the hits on the server is less, meaning that the web servers don't need to be that big. We can have smaller servers because the caching is going on in Cloudflare, and they are distributing. They have a very, very smart system where they are distributing to these 330 cities where they have data centers all over. So the cache is close to the people that are asking for the content, meaning that the traffic is between the client and the nearest data center. And then they have rules on updating the cache and so on. So websites tends to be faster because clients are getting the cached data wherever it's possible. And that has that side effect, that it's a lot less traffic that hits your web servers. So that's something you get on top of that if you want to move other domains, subdomains, or servers or websites to go through the Cloudflare proxy service.
I have a question for you. So we enabled HTTP tunneling on FileMaker Server. Now, I know why you did that, but I'm thinking that we might be able to stump Margaret with that. So, Margaret, do you want to tell me what HTTP tunneling is, why it matters, and then why it potentially matters to CloudFront? Can you answer those questions?
Cloudflare.
Cloudflare. It's related to port 443, right? That turns that port on?
Yep. As opposed to what port would it be using otherwise?
I'm not looking at the screen at the moment.
Look at the screen, Margaret.
No cheating! No cheating, damn it!
The port that apparently is most of the time is 5003. I knew it was a larger number, but I was spacing.
So I'm going to say this out loud for everyone. So Cloudflare is gonna proxy most likely on 80 or 443. They don't know anything about 5003 would be my guess, right? So
Exactly. So Cloudflare, all the proxy stuff works on port 443, and that's why we want to enable HTTPS tunneling on our FileMaker server. And that's why we can actually do this now, because now it's a feature in the FileMaker platform. Not only a test feature on Linux, but it's also on Windows and Mac, which means that setting up this, you can say, fence outside of our perimeter. It protects both the servers that you have on hosted on, like AWS or any other cloud provider. But if you have some on-premise, real on-premise in your building, you can also protect that as well. And it's free and it's pretty easy to set up, right?
I have a question for you real quick. So, and maybe you don't want to answer this. I don't mind answering this because this is around the edges and Claris isn't going to give a shit. So remind me, there were two. There was the initial release of the HTTP tunneling. Was that 20 or was that 21? When did HTTP tunneling first come out? Was that
I believe it
that
is.
was 20? I think it's.
I believe it is.
You see my question, right? Because I think there was the I'm wondering if there's an update to this in 22 where it's better. I think I know Let's Encrypt is getting some love. Claris,
Yeah.
obviously, for those of you who are keeping up with this, they're going to have a release. They've been telegraphing it for a mile away. It's coming up. I don't know when. It's still more than a month away anyway. So the question is, though, is that you're going to want to be up to date with 22, and I think you'd have the latest version of the HTTPS tunneling, which also means that you can really take advantage of the Cloudflare.
I mean, it was introduced in 20 or 2023, whatever naming convention you want to go with.
Yes.
But it was a Linux only.
Yeah.
That time they started on Linux.
Yep.
And which is it's not a bad choice, because that's kind of the first place, and then they are going to make sure it's working, and then they roll it out to Windows and Mac as well.
Sure.
In 21, it was rolled out to both Mac and Windows.
Okay.
So it is a finished feature.
Oh, it's a finished feature. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good.
And it's actually working pretty well.
Good.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, we've done some training on that and our paid video training course on it. It's most of the time no one messes with this unless you're working with FileMaker Server and an IT department that somehow mandates it. Or in this case, this is the first time I've seen it where if you want to take advantage of basically, I'm going to just use a Star Trek term, you want extra deflector shields on your FileMaker Server, you need to turn this on, and then you need to be able to then take advantage of Cloudflare, right? So that's important.
And this also means that, and there's a reason that we got this HTTPS tunneling, and that is precisely because bigger security IT departments has been mandating that we should. They don't want to open for port 5003. We also have a couple of clients where it took like a long time to get approval for opening the port 5003 because it's a non-standard port. But the 443 is open by default because that's HTTPS. So it's a lot easier to implement FileMaker platform into companies where they are more demanding on the security or attack vectors, or have different rules there. So and then, like I said during the presentation that Richard probably missed, is that when we don't need to have port 5003 open, then we have one attack vector less than having it open. So it makes everything more secure, even, right? So, are there any questions?
Marge, questions?
There's a question which I think will this affect our home computer internet? I mean, I wouldn't assume so unless your server is in your house, right?
It's not going to affect anything other than the connection between a client and the FileMaker server. And that
Yeah.
is the domain name that is pointing to the IP address of your FileMaker server. So it's only when you're trying to get into the server. No matter, and if your FileMaker server sits on your office network, let's say it like that, it's only if you want to go from the outside and into your FileMaker server that this will affect you. Otherwise, it's not going to affect you.
Yeah. So if you have a FileMaker server that you can get to from the internet, then
Exactly.
that's where you want to take a look at this. And then you have to have a domain that resolves to your, like Margaret, when we do Big Valley Aviation, it's bva.rcc.com, right? For example.
Yes.
And what you do is you take that address, you'd move it to Cloudflare, they would proxy it, and then yeah, exactly. And then they would forward the legit traffic to your server. So
Yes.
Exactly. So that's it. All right. So no one has asked about trade-offs. So let me go there, because are there no trade-offs? Of course there is, because nothing is free, right?
damn it, I thought you said this was free.
Yeah, nothing is free. But I mean that also, I'm the type of guy that says I'm not on Facebook because I cannot afford to be on Facebook. And people look at me like, are you insane? It's free to be on Facebook. And I say, no, I'm not paying with dollars, but I'm paying with my privacy and my data. And
Yes.
I don't like to do that. But anyway,
Yep.
so what happens is that your traffic will flow through Cloudflare's network. That's kind of the the idea with this proxy, right? And the packets are inspected to detect patterns of network attacks in order to train their detection of malicious traffic. And that's why we can get an account for free with a lot of free stuff in it. Because what Cloudflare gets as the payment for this is that they get to see traffic through their network, and by that they can train their detection systems in order to be better at detecting and preventing and stopping attacks, network attacks. All both for free, but of course also so that their paid services is that much better. And when you have a huge volume of traffic going through your network, then of course it's much better than if you have a smaller service where you have less traffic going through, right? So that's the payment for this, right? There's no content that is decoded though, so it's not like it's still encrypted. That what goes through there. And yes, there are some people or NSA or maybe Unit 8200 are able to decrypt whatever is going through the pipe, but that's kind of out of our hands. That will be just as easy or just as hard to do on the regular internet without going through Cloudflare's network, right? So the free plan allows data packages of up to 100 megabyte to flow free. Bigger files can go through, but it takes longer. And if you buy a paid plan, then you will raise the limit. So if you upload or download very big files, well, files that are bigger than 100 megabytes all the time to container fields. And I want to stress out that I'm talking about container fields. If you have very big files that goes into a container field and out of a container field all the time that are bigger than 100 megabytes, then maybe this is not the best solution for you. You can You can buy a paid plan, like I said, and then you can raise that limit to 500 megabyte is the biggest one that you can put it up to, right?
Let
Uh,
me let me unpackage this a little bit. You're good. Take a drink, Margaret. Test time. You ready for your test? What did he just say? Explain it to me. What he just said.
The data packets that they're proxying through their Cloudflare only really allow a certain magnitude and like the size of the packet to go through to have it be free? No? Okay.
He
that,
said that, but I think that's a mistranslation between his native language and English, right?
Okay.
So my understanding is that it's the file size itself, the individual file size, or they actually
Yes.
yeah,
doing
well,
pack
yeah, well,
class.
well, and that's where you're right and you're wrong at the same time because I know I do know that I wrote data packets of up to 100 megabyte, and then I'm
Yes.
talking about files and packages and files is normally not the same thing, but
Okay. Here we go.
it is related in this sense, and this is a limitation that is on the WebSockets, the proxy part of the WebSockets that Cloudflare offers here, because it's looking at the entire file that all traffic is chopped up in packages that are sent and then they are collected at the receiving end and makes up a full file. But Cloudflare says that they allow data packages of up to 100 megabyte, which is kind of, yeah, sure, and then why? Um, but what I can see after doing testing is that if you have files that is 100 megabytes or below, they go into container like, yeah, I'm snapping, right? As fast as it's possible, right, to upload 100 megabyte, depending on your connection, of course. But it goes just as fast through the Cloudflare network as it will do if you don't have the Cloudflare network enabled, right? So it's the same speed, completely
Okay.
the same speed. If you have files that are bigger than 100 megabytes, then it is like it's sending it the 100 megabytes and then it's resending something and then it takes something more. I did a test with a 750 megabyte file and uploaded, and it took like about 1.5 minutes to upload when the Cloudflare proxy was not enabled. And when it was enabled, it took about 3 minutes. So roughly double time to upload a 750 megabyte file to the container field, right? So that's why I'm saying if you have a lot of these files and you are doing this all the time, then you're gonna be pretty annoyed about this limitation that it has.
I think, yeah, for most of the people that I'm aware of, that they're kind of an outlier because I try to discourage people from loading FileMaker containers full of big ass videos, which is
Yep.
pretty much what we're talking about. But this is a question that someone out there has, and I want you to address this. They have a 20 gigabyte FileMaker file.
Yep.
It's mostly data. They have a container, and most of the things in the containers are PDFs, things like that. They're less than 20 megabyte containers.
Yep.
So that 20 gigabyte total FMP12 file size in a separate external data container, it's not going to, I mean, because when you're not downloading, most people understand it's to 20 gigabytes. You're getting just the bits that you need to draw that on your screen, FileMaker Server to FileMaker Pro to draw it on your screen. So it's much smaller. So do we see any penalty from Cloudflare for normal FileMaker activity?
So I actually put the last bullet point on this slide on, and I did a test with a 520 megabyte file that has almost 1 million records of
Mhm.
zip files from around the world, zip codes, sorry, and it performs with scrolling and searching just as fast via the proxy as without. I cannot detect any
Right.
different things here. And this is likely And I say likely because I don't want to sound like I just know everything that Clay did. But I'm very sure it is because FileMaker already breaks down into 4K data packages and sent these over the network. And Cloudflare doesn't see that as a part of a big file it's transferring. No, it's just package where an upload of the file is going through a different type of mechanism than the database traffic, which is where Cloudflare is sensing this is a file that we are transferring, and that's where this 100 megabyte limit is going to hit you. If you have big ass files, right? But it's only if you have these big ass files. I did several tests with a file that was 98 megabytes, and it went up just as fast. I did a test on both with proxy and without proxy, and that's actually why I set up two different servers in order to see what is the difference between this, and it was just as fast. Again, of course, it depends on your network connection and how far are you away from the physical server, the latency and everything, right? But looking at two different servers that are located in the same data center, it's the same size, they were built and set up at the same time, installed with everything, same version and everything. And one is with tunneling enabled and one is without, and it worked just as fast. And even when you have the tunneling on and without the proxy, it was the same speed. So
Yeah, so it's not the total file size of your FMP12 file because that
No.
data is broken down to little chunks. That he's talking about once again, giant, as Klaus would say, I'm going to quote Klaus, giant ass files that go into a single container, not a bunch of containers together, a single file going into a container. If it's over 100 megabytes, then you're going to have an issue. All right.
And just this is just my test file, and see, I'm scrolling. I don't know if the video at Zoom is displaying
It's
this
keeping up
properly,
with
but
it, actually, yeah.
This is working very well, and we are still in Buenos Aires. In here, there's 931,000 records in this table, right?
Okay, if you really want to be a turd about it, close the file and then clear your cache, right? See, this is how
I have done that.
You have done that. Okay, I'm just making sure you're not some sort of snake oil salesman person.
No. Of
No
course,
snake oil.
I've deleted cache files, and I did that with the 20 different tests I did with the uploading of files to a container field, and I did that between scrolling and so on. So no, this is not cache. Well, right now some of it is probably
cache. Yeah,
right?
probably cache, but yeah, that's fine.
But even when I open it without doing the cache, it's just as fast doing via the proxy as if it's not. So yeah.
We have some questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna ask the first one that I got, which is, hey Klaus, how much consideration should be given to the fact that Cloudflare has had some outages over the years?
Yeah. Nothing is perfect, right? So
what's the chances of someone paying $3 to I'm gonna spank up your day? Okay, so Cloudflare free might go down once a year or something for a little bit, or someone spends $3 on a pizza to take your business down for the afternoon.
Yeah. I mean, I would be more worried about using Microsoft service or Microsoft mail server, because just in the last 6 months, I think I've heard about 4 or 5 or 6 outages of the email service, which is I would be a bit worried for a crucial service like a mail server, right? And that's Microsoft, and they are not a small company, right? So you would think they would have the resources of keeping their systems up and running all the time, right? So nothing is perfect. So everything can be hit, but like I said, 330 server centers in cities all around the world, in 125 out of, is there 199 countries in the world? It's pretty good coverage all over. Which is why I think it's difficult. I haven't heard about any outages that completely put out Cloudflare. But like I said, nothing is perfect. And is your internet connection, is that can't that go down? What about power outages and so on? Or if you have these horrible storms or tornadoes that you have in the US, something goes out there. So I feel fairly confident that this is good. But like I said in the start, there are others out there. I know this Akamai.
Yeah, yeah.
Akamai. I think they have similar services. I haven't researched it, but I believe they have similar services, and I also believe that AWS, they have something they call CloudFront,
CloudFront, that's what we've used before at RCC. Yeah.
which might be possible to use for as a proxy. I'm not sure yet. But someone in the community might want to look into that and let us all know.
We looked at that. We were doing that with, back in the day, we would put our FileMaker videos on an S3 server, and they would play through FileMaker, but the performance would be slow. So we set up a deal with CloudFront with AWS. So as people would watch the video, it filters into CloudFront, which caches it. All it was is caching, right? And they have all these what they call edge locations like Cloudflare, and they cache the video. So if you're in Argentina, somewhere you watched it down in South America down there somewhere, and you watch the video again where Claus is telling you how great he is, you don't get it back from North America. It comes from the local server. It's already saved down there, cached. So,
which is the same thing that Cloudflare offers.
Right. I'm just saying, I haven't used CloudFront for proxy, only for caching. So, but Cloudflare obviously is very simple. The price point can't be beat. I think you'd have to pay for CloudFront. I don't think that's going to be free. So this might be the free way to go. So.
Yeah, and then there is, of course, other features as well, like waiting rooms, if you would ever need that on your website, if you are going to have an event or sells like 50,000 tickets for something, like when Richard goes do a show with his helicopter, then, of course, a lot of people
everyone shows up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so maybe that's a lot of pressure. So you can buy a waiting room feature here as well, right?
Ooh, nice.
But the main thing is, so there are a lot of other features that you could look into if you want. But even these free things, and so simple it is to set it up, is like, yeah, why not, right?
Absolutely.
All right. I have another
Any
question.
questions here at the last minute?
Yes. Could you ask Claus what his upload speed would be? So that was back during the data packet conversation.
Yeah, my upload speed. Well, that again, it depends on your local internet connection. So that's why I said I did a test where I said a 750 megabyte file, I could upload that in 1.5 minutes, and then that's relative. So that's just about saying 1.5 minutes and then 3 minutes with the proxy on. And that's relative, because that depends on how fast is my internet connection right now, and I'm using Wi-Fi to the router, to the firewall, and then I actually have a 1 gigabyte internet connection. So that's all dependent on the stuff that's going on here, and then is there other stuff that is using my internet connection and takes up some bandwidth and so on. The speed on the Cloudflare network is, like I said, For using FileMaker, normally you cannot feel any difference. I haven't used some very fancy measuring tools. I guess Wim would have a tool. I don't know if his tool is actually able to measure a difference between a local client and the server in terms of speed for operations that
That's
go.
Hansa. That's Hansa's tool.
Yeah,
Hansa.
Hans probably has a tool where he can do
Yeah.
that. And of course, it would be interesting to hear. I mean, logically, it would be slower to go through the proxy than without the proxy. That's logical. It should be like that. But again, what is not in that logical conclusion is that we don't take into account what is the consequence of going through such a big network that is optimized in so many ways, like the Cloudflare network. So maybe you get a better route through their network than if you go outside that network, which might be more hops on the internet. So again, it's relative, and it's something where there's no conclusion. So I cannot say what is the upload speed. As fast as you can, I would say, right? And like I said, that they have the what was it, 330, 330, 388 terabits per second network, right? I don't know even how that works in. That's
Yeah.
a good pipe, right?
The slowest part of this whole conversation is that you routing it through Cloudflare, all their stuff is infinitely faster than whatever you have. And so you running it through them is a pretty minimal penalty, maybe a little bit in latency, but their connection is vastly bigger than yours. So if
Yeah,
there's any sort of slowdown, it's because of your pipe to them, not
yeah,
because they're slow. So,
exactly. Sure. Any other questions?
what other
I
question we have, Margaret?
I don't see any at the moment.
Right.
So, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Nailing it right on
I
time.
hope it was interesting and
Oh, yes.
um
Anytime you can have something that's free that provides high value, right? But the audience always loves that, right? Now they should spend some money and reward the vendors they like with some money, but yeah, I think that anytime it's free and it has a high value return, I'm going to talk to Jacob Taylor about this proxy stuff. It's a good idea for us to RCC to even have that, which I don't know that we do. So anyway,
I don't think I haven't heard about it. Maybe some is actually doing this. That would be interesting, but I actually think this is like I said, I think it's a world premiere in the FileMaker world to use this proxy approach with FileMaker Server. But it is doable. It works, and like I said, I spoke with Clay about it, and actually because I wanted to hear if from his technical point of view, because he actually built the tunneling system, or at least designed how it should go, and I wanted to know if there were some technical things that I should take into consideration, or if he said, "Yeah, no, forget about it. It's gonna be a mess or anything." But like he said, as long as it's supporting long pulling WebSockets, then we're good to go. And I tested it, and evidently it does support that. So if you want to use any other proxy services like this, long pulling, if that's something they declare on their settings, then that's what FileMaker needs on this. So yeah,
Nope, just a lot of people saying that thank you, Klaus, for presenting on this, which is true. This has been awesome.
yeah, it's a really good topic. I don't always say that to everyone. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, it's yeah, but no, this is a really good topic. If I can see that I could use it for myself personally, then I know almost everyone in the audience, except for the people who only have a FileMaker Pro on their home computer to run their DVD and videotape collection.
sure.
Um, yeah, then they probably don't need this. But if you're doing business with FileMaker and there's any sort of customer facing anything, or you have remote salespeople or something, yeah, this is a good one. So, all right, well, Claus is really good. Good job.
I mean, I actually like this one because this is highly technical, but it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everyone can do it, but it's actually very technical, and it's like an insurance policy. It doesn't mean that you are completely secure, but you have actually got yourself an insurance policy and some kind of protection that will help protect against some attacks that you could very easily be exposed to, right? And actually, you don't even have to put up take up your pockets to do so. So it's most likely easy to convince your boss as well that this is something that is worth looking into, right?
Yep, I like it. Absolutely. Yeah, it's very technical. This has been dumbed down quite a bit, but everyone needs to know to make this go. There's no hidden stuff here. All the technical stuff is the warfare that goes on in the trenches between the bad guys and the good guys. Claus hasn't said this, but there's a whole team of good guys at CloudFront who are there. You know, it's like at the castle, right? And they're on the walls of the castle shooting back at the bad guys. So yeah.
For sure.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Claus, for presenting. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. We love having you on the show. Everyone have a lovely day, and we will catch you all tomorrow. Bye-bye, everybody.
No.